Who else does it this way? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Dave says he does this way. Well, what is stuff? I was like, well,
Good evening, ladies. I'd like to bring the ladies and gentlemen. I was waiting for you to pipe in, Peter.
okay.
Don't worry about that.
The September 26th, 2024 Hudson Valley Regional EMS Council to order. We can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to also ask you to stand for a moment of silence. Recently, we lost a member of the Poughkeepsie police dispatcher. So we'd like to just have a moment of silence for him, please. Right. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Tonight, our acting secretary is going to be Mr. Hughes, so if you could call roll call. You can
You ready?
you can defer to Karen if you'd
I
like.
can delegate that, right?
You ready? Okay,
Yes.
Dutchess County, Chrissy Amy. David Violante.
Here.
Joan Sieber. Here. Anthony Singh.
Here.
Robert Ridley. Steve Scully Beeman. William Marshall. Robert Metriano.
Here.
Orange County, Michael Bigg. Richard Willie.
Yes, here.
Wayne Chan.
Here.
David Grass.
Here.
Israel Knobloch. Frank Cassanite. Alexandria Wilshire. Nancy Pfeiffer.
Here.
Putnam County, Robert Cuomo.
Here.
David Jacobson. Michael Mikulski.
Here.
Martin Miller.
Yes.
Nicholas Falcone. Steve Wygand. Rockland County, Bernice Gerardi. Nick Rizecki.
Present.
Tim Egan.
Here.
Desiree Leone. Glenn Albin.
Present.
Allison Spong.
Here.
Ephraim Tauber.
Here.
BJ Leidner. Sullivan County, Albie Bachman. Alex Rao.
Here.
Neil Madow.
Here.
Norman Prentice. Susan Sherwood. Peter Goodman.
Here.
Ulster County, Rich Parrish. Kelly Nelson. Karen Pardini.
Here.
Stephen Sawyer. Jeff Ashdown. Jessica Foster.
I believe Wayne Chan snuck in
Yeah.
quietly.
He did say yes, though.
Yeah.
He did respond.
We have 20
Acknowledged.
members.
Outstanding. Is there anyone that wasn't called that's present that's part of the council, either a delegate or an alternate? Perfect, thank you. Can we make sure that the ladies have chairs? Chief Hyatt, if you could start by, what I'd like to do is just have our guests that are here tonight let us know who you are and who you're here representing so that we can address you properly. So Chris, if you could just start that off for us, it'd be appreciated.
Deputy Chief Christopher Hyatt, ALS EMS Coordinator for the City of Kingston Fire Department.
It's time to go to sleep.
That might
Guess that leads to you, Greg.
Greg Berger, representing Mid-Hudson Regional Hospital, West Hudson Medical Center.
Got Nancy, got Ephraim, got Wayne, right there. I think that takes us to over here. Who wasn't?
Andrew.
More become HVREMSCO.
Are
Ju-
we doing the,
Introductions.
Rebecca from Spring Community Ambulance.
Spring Hill.
Yep.
Thank you.
and Kaya from Spring Hill?
Outstanding.
John Mahoney, Dutchess County.
Daniel Wolf, Vassar Brothers.
Outstanding. Thanks, everybody. Well, we appreciate you coming here tonight. Obviously, we like to acknowledge everybody that's here. We love it when we have a quorum. We do appreciate you guys altering. Normally, we're here on Wednesdays, but the state had all of their meetings last Wednesday, which forced us to move it back to here today. So I appreciate you guys adjusting your schedules and then being there. So now that we've gone through that, Mr. Parrish could not be here tonight because of the schedule change. I believe he's got a class, he's teaching or something,
Yeah, he's
so he couldn't be here. He did submit a report, so I'd like to read it into the record now, if you don't mind.
What is that?
It's the second reminder that I should go to sleep. Or shut up and end the meeting.
of us to go sleep.
Okay, very good. He represented the council at the following: Lower Hudson Valley Hospital Mutual Aid Coordinating Entity, to the EMS and Hospital Liaison for the Orange County Air Show, Hudson Valley OHIP meetings, and then there's another abbreviation, I don't know what that means. The Regional Trauma Symposium and RTAC meetings at Westchester Community College, where he attended 2 of the helicopter meetings that were there. Participated in both of the transportation committees with BlueCon, chair of the public hearing, and the KFD CON assisted with office mailings. Protocol committee attended, training and ed, personnel committee, the Kingston Cigar Club. He represented the Hudson Valley REMSCO at the recognition dinner.
Yeah.
That's TMI.
Obviously, SEMSCO training and ed, monthly Zoom meetings, SEMSCO, and then from there, safety committee and their meetings, as well as the Ulster County EMS Council due to EMT conflicts, was there. So, any questions for Rich? I know there was at least one, but we'll save it for when he's here. Moving on to the, what's that? Well, that's kind of the one I figured you can ask him in person, because he didn't invite me to that with
I
him.
do know the answer to that, though. It was about a grant. They're an organization that has grants that they send out, and he was looking at the EMS side of the grant.
Excellent, excellent.
Wait.
Okay, so for my report, I have some good news and some unfortunate news. So the first thing we'll start with is on August 12th, 2024, we were notified by the Council for Blue Care that they were appealing the decision by this council, that they felt that we erred in our decision of the need for the CON, and they have appealed that up to the state. It was not presented in the Systems Committee or in SEMSCO this go-around. I will assume, based on conversations, it is sitting up in the Department of Legal Affairs while they go through whatever they have to go through before they present it back to the Systems Committee. So we don't know whether it will appear in the December meeting or whether it'll be held over to the February state meetings. But that was the unfortunate piece, but that's the legal system, and everybody's entitled to follow it through to the course. One of the things that I was about to announce was that we were still looking for a secretary for the council, and we were going to make some suggestions on how to get that done, but I was able to hog tie, wrestle, wrangle, beg, plead, do whatever I want.
No, not whatever you want.
Okay. I was gonna offer cash, it came in the form of pennies, but Karen Pardini from Ulster County has agreed to sign on as a secretary moving forward. So,
Cigar Club.
Cigar Club. Thank you, Karen. It's a huge position, guys. While the workload, we've streamlined a lot of it, it's an important piece of what we do here, so having that secretary keep things in place. The last thing that I'll comment on, the rest of everything else we did with Bill will report in his, but for those of you that have noticed, obviously back in July, Mr. Crutcher had resigned his position from our quality improvement, quality assurance portion of the team. As we had discussed with you guys, we moved forward with finding replacements, and we had elected to go into a part-time position for that. We had several candidates apply. Those went through a pretty rigorous vetting process. When we went through, we narrowed it down to 3 or 4 candidates, had interviews, initial interviews with them, and then we narrowed it down to a couple of candidates, had follow-up interviews with there. I'm happy to report that a final job offer will be tendered this week. Once it's been accepted, then we can move on with announcing who it is and what the situation will be. So I don't want to get too far into the weeds until they've accepted the position, but everything that was discussed at the interviews we were able to come in with as far as hours and salaries and things like that. So that's the extent of my report, unless somebody has something for me. Outstanding. Hearing nothing, we will move on to Mr. Chan and the treasurer's report, sir.
I have to fake it, Bill's got it.
Fake it till you make it.
Now, Wayne wasn't sure he was gonna be here tonight, so I do have his report. Since our last meeting, which was 5/16/24, we had 41 checks and payments made for $64,125. Most of it's in the rent, as we know, and miscellaneous payments to water, internet, phones, mail, supplies, stuff like that. We transferred $30,000 from program agency into the payroll account in July 30th of '24. We have received one deposit so far of $68,495, which was the third quarter voucher for the program agency. And as far as vouchers, right now we have one voucher outstanding. In fact, it hasn't even been submitted to the Bureau of EMS yet, because we have to do a budget modification before it gets submitted. And our budget modification was just approved yesterday, so we will submit it shortly. And that was for $63,389. The regional council voucher for the fourth quarter, the budget adjustment was put in, it was accepted, it was approved, and we have been paid for that voucher of $5,552, which just came in this week. As far as our account balances, we have $54,769 into conference and education. We have $114,000 in our program agency and $16,000 in payroll, for a total of $185,000. That's where we stand at this point. Questions?
Hearing none, we'll move over to regional staff report.
Okay. We will continue with some of the financial parts of the regional staff report. The general picture, I feel the general picture of the council right now is stable, but it's questionable in the future due to the lack of the regional council and the program agency contracts. Our contract, as you know, our contracts expired in June 30th, and we have not received even the beginning part of the new contract process. So we've already been working a first quarter without a contract. We expect that the contract should at least be awarded shortly. The regional council contract was awarded, but it hasn't been put in SFS, so we can't apply our budgets to it or anything else. So what happens is we get awarded the contract, then they put it in SFS, and then we start putting in our budgets, all the requirements that they have for us. It's about 15 pages of information that they want from us that we put in. Then it goes through an approval process. Now, that approval process can take anywhere from 2 months to 6 months. So it's going to be a while before we actually get money. But the good news in that is they're promising that this time, for the first time in 27 years, that we are going to get an increase in that budget. So it's been 27 years that we've been working on the same budget, so we'll see. And there's also 2 supplementary grants that are going to be added to that. One is going to be the grant for reimbursement for education for 2 paramedics within our region. So we'll get $20,000 to put 2 paramedics through the educational process to become paramedics. And that's for every region.
Per year, right?
Well, at this point in time, they're saying per year, yes, but they haven't guaranteed that yet. The second one is $15,000 for recruitment and retention, which is what we've been talking about for a while doing, so now we'll have some funds to back that up. That also should be, that's another grant, and that should also be every year for this. And this is, normally, in the past, we've had 2-year contracts. This will be a 5-year contract, so we won't have to go through this for another 5 years. But then so if we get all of this, it should be really good. But the approval, they're not committing to any dollar amount or any money until you actually see the contract. But hopefully we'll see it shortly. Any questions on contracts? Yes, sir.
The recruitment and retention $15,000 grant, do you have an idea of how you're gonna spend that yet?
Well, we had started up some stuff that we were talking about, but we haven't really firmed anything and put any prices to it. And that's gonna be an issue, because the grant is, we have to pay the money out and we get a reimbursement on it. So, again, without getting the other half of the contract to get money back in, we could be running shy on money. And the grant has to be used within the grant year. So if that $15,000 will have to be used before June 30th of '25. So if we don't get it until May of '25, it could be a problem. So, and we gotta spend both of them in that short period. Yes, sir.
So if you don't know how you're gonna spend it yet, I mean, can I propose, and I don't know if what has been done in the past, I do apologize for that as well, but that you can put out like a request for proposals to subaward that money to, you know, whatever you wanna do it, and then as those come in, hopefully this will kick in, and then you can make the awards and not lose time.
Well, there is a couple of restrictions on it, but we don't know what they are. Each one of the grants come with a deliverable package. And we have to meet the deliverable.
Yeah, the terms and
package.
conditions of
Right.
the, yes,
So we're not sure what that's gonna be yet either.
okay,
And
So-
historically, it's turning in receipts of what's been paid.
yeah. Yeah, and those terms and
We don't have
conditions
the money
would probably
to pay
pass
it.
down to the
We don't have the
subaward,
money to pay it,
yeah.
which, you know,
Conceivably, they're giving you a month.
it's gonna be a really tight timeframe. So we
Yeah.
may not make it this go-around, but the hope is that we can establish a fund to be able to set aside to use for that, and then keep, you know, once that fund is established, then we can take the money from the state and reimburse the fund. But we have to establish that first, or we'll be spending money we don't have.
And like I said, the only voucher we have outstanding right now is the fourth quarter from program agency, and hopefully we'll get that squared away shortly.
Another question, I mean, do we need a subcommittee to try to come up with this stuff, or are we gonna?
Well, we actually have one, I think, don't we? That has talked about it and had put some plans together, but we haven't had any money to back the plans up, so, you know,
Oh,
we'll be
okay,
working with that.
We can put you in touch with them.
yeah, I'd be curious to know what
Okay. The Bureau of EMS has come out with 4 new policies since our last meeting, so be aware of them. There's a second protocol change log. It's a very small, there's only 3 changes on it, but it is put out there as a policy. The 4-year certification with the National Registry EMT exam information is out on one of the policies. That's policy 2406, which changes a few things. And policy 2407 is the Advanced EMS Practitioner Course, practical skill evaluation and how they do that. And 2428 is Part 800 changes, mostly on the educational side, but I think some of them are on equipment also. Operating, I want to talk a little bit about operating certificates, because we've been doing a lot of work in there. Dave mentioned the Blue Care. Our denial was appealed, so we'll see what comes down the pipe with that one. Kingston Fire converted their MuniCon to a traditional CON at a special meeting of REMSCO on 8/7/24. And actually, those were done by 2 special meetings, so I thank everybody for coming to those special meetings. I mean, it's more of a burden on you guys, I understand that. Then we actually have a bunch of MuniCons that were issued. We had the Town of Lloyd that was issued at the end of last year. Town of Kent has a MuniCon that's been issued July 16th of this year. The Town of Waiwayanda issued a certificate on July 17th of this year, and the County of Sullivan was issued a certificate 9/15/24. Out of that, we also have 2 agencies that did ALS upgrades. We have the Town of Newburgh is an ALS upgrade. It was issued or approved at the 6/3/24 meeting of the REMAC, and they went into operation 6/18/24. And the Town of Waiwayanda was approved for a ALS upgrade on September 9th in '24. So we have 2 major outstanding projects that we've been working on. IGEL, which I'm sure David will give you an update on that because that's coming to a close. And the RSI training and new policies were put out, or the training has been approved by the REMAC, and we're gonna be putting that out with new policies in a very short period of time. That was it there, I guess. That's pretty much it. Our next REMAC meeting is Monday, November 4th, and our next HVREMSCO meeting will be December 18th here. Our tech hasn't done anything, and anybody that's interested in vital signs or going to vital signs or haven't signed up for it, it's October 16th through the 20th in Rochester. So that's all that I have, unless you have some questions.
All right, thank you, Bill. Do we have a report from Nelson?
No, the report was gonna be, we have a replacement.
Yep, not a problem. What I would like to publicly do, I did it personally, but I would encourage each of you to do the same. As you're aware, with Jeff's sudden departure, Nelson Machado willingly stepped back into the position as a former position that he held, and has been instrumental in keeping the wheels on the cart when it comes to the QI and QA. He's also agreed to stay on long enough to transition the new person to get them comfortable with their roles and responsibilities. So here publicly, I'd like to thank Nelson Machado, and I'd also encourage each of you, as you see him in his passings and his roles and responsibilities in other organizations, thank him for the work that he did here, because it was totally valued and we appreciate it. So thank you. All right, we'll move over to committee reports. Mr. Violante, I guess we'll start with training.
Really, there's not much to talk about from training at the regional level. We have a meeting coming up, and so we should have more after that.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Papish is not here with the REMAC meeting. Anything on that?
There was a couple of things I just want to go over to the REMAC. One of the things that we read into our minutes at the REMAC is enforcements, and that's different things that the Bureau has found wrong and have brought the investigation has been brought to where there is a result from that investigation. And unfortunately, they've been really on the rise. In March, they did 3 enforcements that we had to read into the record. In June, we had 6, but in September, we had 16. And we already have 1 for the next meeting. So there's I guess the Bureau is looking a lot closer at some stuff, so just be aware that that's happening. Or we're slipping on some stuff. I don't know which way it goes, but there's a couple of things there. If you go on our website, no? If you go on our website, you'll see that there's a new transfer of care policy published out there, which allows paramedics to transfer care to AEMTs in cases where the patient does not require the care of the higher level. That was never a policy that we had previously. The REMAC has approved that policy at the last meeting. RSI training was approved by the REMAC. The REMAC did talk a little bit about the new QA/QI manual that is out, so agencies that are not aware of it, if you go onto the website, you'll see that there's a new QA/QI. It's actually not new anymore. It's been out quite a while, but you guys should be aware of it. It does talk about some key improvement points there and things like that you have to be looking at for your agency, which will become mandatory pretty soon. They also discussed about naloxone. It was a discussion, and the REMAC did not approve the use of that in our region, and they wanted some more information on it, and they'll talk about it again at the next meeting. And it was also brought up about the safety committee at the state meeting is talking about severe weather conditions and plans for that, and when EMS agencies should not respond because of the weather conditions and danger to the crews. So that will be coming out as best policies and practices.
Question on the QA/QI manual. Which website would that be, regional or the state?
It's on the state website under operations. So if you go under there, there's a thing called quality, and it's a sub-page of operations. There's a bunch of stuff there. There's the manual. There's 2 other documents that tell you what's going to be coming in.
I put a flyer out on the table out there. Grab that. That'll take you right where you need to go.
Great, thank you.
That's all I have for reading.
All right, very good. Glenn, you have anything from Transportation Committee?
Other than we got a peeled on blue care.
Not a problem.
Wasn't a surprise.
Yeah, well, again, this is what our legal system's for, so everybody's entitled. All right, Transportation Committee still needs a chair as well as policies and procedures. Before I turn, or no,
Bill,
policy and procedure, yeah, sorry.
I had a question about the MAC meeting. The severe weather conditions, does it include, natural disasters too?
Yes.
Or just, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it will include any condition where it would be unsafe to put a crew out on a road.
Okay, thank you.
But mostly they talked about weather,
Well,
and mostly northern New York State.
we did have an earthquake.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, we're still looking for chairs for the Public Information and Policy and Procedure Committee. What's not on the agenda, before I turn it over, Albie's not here, but I don't know if Tim has anything. Our award ceremony, each of your regions should have received, obviously, your local regional winners that went out for the Hudson Valley. So all of those announcements went out already. I am happy to announce that the state winners are out. And the Hudson Valley was lucky enough to take home 2 state winners. So from Rockland County, I believe it's the Youth Provider of the Year, went to Shalom Halberstam, did I pronounce that correctly, from Rockland County? So your youth provider is winning the State Youth Provider of the Year for New York State. Equal to that, Dutchess County, Kyle Maxwell has been presented or is going to be awarded the BLS Provider of the Year. So again, two more Hudson Valley Award winners at the state level. Again, so what I would encourage each of you to do is go home and remind your local councils, when you go to your regional councils, that their time and effort is not wasted, right? Putting these nominations in, getting the people that come out every day and support your services can be recognized, should be recognized, regardless of whether they win local, regional, or states. It's important to acknowledge our people and the fine work that they're doing. So I just wanted to throw that out so you guys were aware that's coming out. Albie's not here. Tim, do you have anything on legislative and bylaws you want to pass out?
Sure, I got a legislative report, but before I get to
Outstanding,
that,
thank you.
there was a tabletop at the safety committee meeting that Rich Parrish led.
Correct. You're
At
welcome.
HVREMSCO, and it was quite interesting. He really teased out and pulled out involvement from the people from the Buffalo area in particular, and it was weather related. It was natural disasters. It was a good tabletop, and I think he wants to do that periodically out there. So.
Good.
Yeah, that was good. Anyway, so legislative report. So for those of you that don't know, Tip and Tab was signed into law by the governor last week while we were up at State Council. I know it happened during the CMAC meeting because there was thunderous applause from the CMAC meeting when that was announced. And that was really a pretty interesting time. The bills were S-8486 from Senator Hinchy and A-9102 from Assemblymember Kellis. The law takes effect October 1st. It'll allow for Medicaid reimbursement for emergency ambulance service providers who treat a patient but do not transport that patient to a hospital, or who transport that patient to an alternative destination, such as the crisis centers that we've been talking about, the psychiatric crisis centers. Next steps are that the OHIP office out of Medicaid has already completed the state plan amendment, and that's now going to be sent to their SPA unit for review. By the end of the year, the SBA will send it up to CMS, and they need to sign off on the SBA before implementation, since the feds are responsible for 50% of Medicaid in New York. And one thing I learned that I didn't know is that Louisiana is 96% from the feds. That was a pretty big number.
Wow.
Has nothing to do with us, but that's just a pretty big number. That will be entirely in the hands of CMS at that point, but it's possible we could see reimbursements for Tip and Tab by. Rich Brand from Medicaid was talking about the second quarter next year.
Correct.
So that could be very helpful. Agencies will be able to bill the appropriate base rate, either BLS emergency, ALS1, or ALS2, depending on the call complexity, of course, along with the W modifier like previously done with ET3. The Bureau is responsible for crafting policy to be used as guidance as to what will be required of agencies in order to be able to do it. So what are we going to have to do? At the very least, I'm sure an assessment of vital signs. Other legislation signed by the governor last week was S-6226, A-5789, which provides for the availability of ambulance services and ALSFRs to store and distribute blood and initiate and administer blood transfusions. So that's gonna be worked out with the Wadsworth Lab. I don't think they have policies on that just yet. Regarding the definition of EMS, so Onion and Nice Fair, our two boards have been working extensively and very closely over the past few months to try and retool the definition that failed in legislation last year. So we got that to the State Council and to the Bureau, and SEMSCO, the main body of SEMSCO, voted to endorse it on Wednesday of last week. So that was great. That definition is as follows. Emergency medical service means a coordinated system of interoperable healthcare response, assessment, treatment, transportation, emergency medical dispatch, medical direction, research, which was a word that was added at the last minute, and practitioner education that provides essential emergency and non-emergency care and transportation for the ill and injured and enhances preparedness and mitigates risk to the public. So we were very careful to try and pull out words or phrasing that triggered responses from opposing organizations, and I'll just say that. We did get essential in there, but later on in the definition, we added research to try and modernize the definition while at the same time bringing something to the table that would be accepted by the governor's office and by the legislators and by our opposition. So the goal that Onion and Nice Vera have right now is to take pieces of the larger set of the rescue bills, EMS rescue bills from last year, that didn't get passed, and parse them into smaller pieces that can get included or passed separately. Our associations will be focusing on sustainable reimbursement above and beyond tip and tab and direct pay from last year, and push for Medicaid parity with Medicare, possible legislation to push insurance companies to also bring their rates up to have parity with Medicare. So that's what we're all working on in our associations, and that's the legislation that passed last week that we've been pushing. So 2 years in a row, we as an industry have had success in all of the legislation getting passed. So, good stuff.
I just have one question, Tim. And I believe that I heard it at State Council, and maybe you can clarify for me. Currently, there are bills in front of both the House and Senate federally to support Medicare moving to a treatment in place and an alternative destination.
Yeah,
Can you elaborate, or are you familiar with that?
Yeah,
Because I caught
heard
pieces
the
of
same
it.
thing, and Steve Kroll and I were talking about that. It's a bit of a retooling of what ET3 was. They're renaming it and retooling it. I don't know much more about it other than that, though. But
All right,
there
nothing
is
that
some
we can reach out and
at
start.
the federal level, yeah.
Nothing we can wrap our hands around and start reaching out locally to our representatives now
Not
that it's
just
election year
yet.
for several of them.
Yeah, so pretty much all legislation is going to be paused
Yeah.
all over the place until after the
Right.
election.
All right.
Next year we'll get it done.
Good. Anybody else have anything for Tim?
No, but the tip and tab is really important in that more than a third of calls end up as unfunded no transports. And so this is a huge win for the industry.
Yeah, as Dave said, I mean, about 30% of just about anybody's call volume results in no transport. What we're gonna have to focus in on and key in on is what the Bureau comes up with regard to policy as to what piece of that 30% we'll actually be able to bill for. But the other piece to this is that this only applies to Medicaid patients. About 46% of the state is on Medicaid, but the payer mix for all of our agencies is different depending on where you are in the region. But we're also, and again, as trade associations, going to be pushing to not just have Medicaid, but have commercial payers and so on, lifting their rates as well.
Right. And they're very inclined to do that because they'd rather pay the ambulance no transport fee than the entire hospital stay fee.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the estimates were a savings to the healthcare system overall in the first 6 months for next year, assuming it went into play in April or so, about 50 million, and then 100 million each subsequent year to the healthcare system. So there's a big incentive for them to do this because they pay us more to keep the patients at home. It's almost like a backhanded way of doing community paramedicine.
That's right.
Nice. Nothing else? Thank you, Tim. Anything on community paramedicine you want to elaborate on, sir?
Since I brought it up, not really. We are going to be pushing for that in the governor's executive budget and legislation for next year. That'll be one of those things that we're going to parse out, as I said, to try and get things done. That we don't want everything in one giant bill like we had last year, because then nothing passed. So that's why we did the definition the way we did it. Karen, I'll send you some notes on this so that you have a few minutes.
Too boardable.
It's fine.
Anybody else have anything for Tim? All right, hearing nothing. Hopefully, everybody got the state report that David generated and put out. For those of you that perused it, it is 17 pages long.
Is it really?
So, I think it was 17 pages long.
It is.
It is extremely detailed, and I don't say that in a negative tone. I say that because several of you don't have the opportunity to be there over the course of 3 days. And it's a 3-day event because most of the meetings start on Monday night before the committee meetings all day Tuesday. They start at 8 o'clock in the morning and go until about 5:30 in the evening on Tuesday. System starts at 8 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, and I think we got out of there about 4:45 on Wednesday evening. So there's a lot of information that goes on, and David's reports are phenomenal of kind of putting all of that in a really easy to read form. So I'll turn it over to you,
It was a great.
so that you don't have to read
I did
17
read it.
pages.
And this time color coded.
Easily shareable with your councils, though.
That's
Which is
right.
what makes it nice. You don't have to try and go back and regurgitate 17 pages of information. You can say, hey, here's a report, please read it.
Yeah, exactly. There are just a couple of highlights I do want to make, and I'll answer any questions folks have. But from finance, folks are just not using the pilot programs that are out there for funding at the agency level. There's, I think, 5 different ones that you can use to get state funding for putting EMTs through EMT school. So please go take a look at those and utilize all those different ones. From education and training, there's new guidance for CME coordinators of agencies doing the CME submissions. They're gonna do a new class up at the conference this year and then put more information out on that. I haven't actually seen what's different with that, but they said there was changes coming, so just please look for them and be aware that they're there so that you don't get kicked in your CME program.
There, for core sponsors, they did send out, there's webinars, because I know on October 9th, and there was another date
October
where,
2nd.
October 2nd, I didn't remember the one, because I signed up for the 9th one.
Okay.
Where there's gonna be webinars where you can log right on and go through and get what all that new information,
Okay.
plus it'll be at Vital Signs.
All right, cool. Tim covered legislative, that's awesome. Systems, there are performance standards that are out. If you look at Article 30, Section 3004, it discusses performance standards for agencies and what the state is going to be doing about what those performance standards are. The regulations say that these performance standards could be in these different areas. I know the state is looking at a few different things right now, including quality improvement and some other operational standards. So to that end, I put out this flyer out on the table there to look at your agency's quality improvement and what you do and how you do it. There's links to the manual that's been out for a couple of years now, a quick start guide, and the NEMSQA, the National EMS Quality Assurance, national standards for quality improvement areas. Please take a look at those. If you have any questions, reach out to me. I'm happy to come to your county or agency to help you set up your own quality improvement program. We'll be working at the region to do that and set something out and even do some things regionally for quality improvement. This is not quality assurance. This is different. It's not focused on the individual. It's not focused on being a bad provider. It's not focused on getting your hand slapped, going to Bob's office when he calls you in. This is really looking at the system, what meets a standard, what doesn't meet a standard, and how you can improve the system, which then captures everybody in the system. So it's really, really very different. So happy to do that with you. But please take a look at Article 30, Section 3004, because that's different. Safety did a mental health tag. They talked about Carl Gandolfo and Jenny, right on my head.
Sure.
Sorry. Say again?
Solomon.
Solomon, thank you.
Solomon.
Did a whole program on saving those who save others through New York Medical College. This is the only copy I have. I believe this is probably on their website. Can you just search for this and see to make it available? Read through this. There's a lot of good stuff in here. I'll leave a copy out there so that you can take a picture of the cover of it. Please leave it though, so that other people can do that. There's they did a lot of great work, and some of the students at New York Medical College and Public Health Program wrote this up, and it's phenomenal. So take a look at that. Mental health issues with first responders is a really big deal. The state is really doing a lot of work with that. CMAC and SEMSCO are doing a lot of work with that, and we need to as well. So please take a look at that. The Part 800 equipment regulation updates were out for public comment. There was apparently significant comment, and so they had to retool it a little bit and send it back out, so it's gonna come back. We talked about Rich's Tabletop, which was really good. For quality metrics, the web page is now updated so that it's a little bit easier to navigate and the links take you to the right places. There's going to be regulation updates for quality improvement, which will be coming out hopefully pretty soon, on what you need to do for quality improvement. I will say that this year they're looking at having your agency start a quality improvement plan program, select 3 of the quality improvement topics, let the region know what they are, and then start working on those and do updates in them. And so the state will probably be looking for some of that stuff as they do their agency recertifications. So just keep that in mind. NEMSIS 3.5 is just about completed for being rolled out. There'll be some few updates sent out probably the beginning of next year that are minor in comparison. And the data informatics team is sending out educational snippets about what's changed in 3.5 and what you need to be aware of. If you're not getting those, reach out to Peter Brody and the data informatics team so that you can be put on that email list to get those snippets. They're actually pretty informative. One of the things with the regulations and doing the agency recertifications is they're going to be asking about quality improvement initiatives at your agency. And so that flyer that that's out on the table there, oh, he said, thanks.
Thank you, Vanna.
We'll give you a lot of information about how to do that, and this is going to be provided for the folks doing the, from the state that are coming out to do your agency inspection, so they can give you a hand with it and help you with it and provide information. Innovations is talking about integrating the crisis stabilization centers, mental health, behavioral health crisis stabilization centers into the EMS system. This comes out at a really good time with Tip and Tab, because instead of transporting a patient to the hospital, maybe we take him to the right place. And so they're working on that from the Innovations Committee along with other initiatives. Just take a look through the report. Med Standards has a new tag on clinical data integrity, and they're starting to do a lot of really good work on making sure that the data you put into your PCR is the same data that ends up at the state and at the hospital, because right now it is not all the time. Some of them are pretty good, some of them are not pretty good. You know, hospitals aren't making good decisions, and tags aren't making good decisions. CMAC, SEMSCO can't make great decisions if the data's not good. It doesn't have to be perfect. You have to look for a good trend of it, but to have fairly decent data is important. So now there's a tag working on that, which is great. Collaborative protocol discussion, I think, Bill, you talked about that. The second change log is online. Mm-hmm. And agency inspections, what the state is saying is be careful about expired medications, expired equipment, oxygen tank hydro testing and securing, and for ALS agencies, your Part 80 plans to make sure all that stuff is on point. Let's see, for those who went to the EMS Memorial, it was fantastic. It was this past Thursday up in the plaza. There's an entirely new memorial up there that has everybody's names on it. People that are put up on the memorial will be on a star on the tree for some time, and then it'll be taken down. Their name will be engraved on the wall in different places. If you get the chance, go take a look at it. It's phenomenal, and it was really done very nicely. And the memorial service itself went very well also. That is online if you want to go look at it. The webcast is up there. There was some, I have to say, the Lieutenant Governor did an amazing job at recognizing what we do every day. And it seemed like he had done this himself. And so go listen to that. Even if you just listen to him, you should go listen to that. They did a great job. There's a new policy, possession and production, New York State EMS certification card. Take a look at that. If you have any issues with wait times at the hospitals, please be sure to fill out the state form about the wait time. They are looking at that. We are really very lucky down here in the Hudson Valley. You know, we hear stories of places up north where services wait 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours at a hospital in their ambulance to get
Regularly.
called to come in.
Regularly.
Yeah.
It's like an everyday thing.
Yeah.
Right,
And,
regularly.
and some services will transport their patient like an hour and a half away because it's faster than going to their local hospital and waiting in the ER there. So just, if you have an issue, fill that out. Don't fill it out willy-nilly because you will get a phone call from the state about it saying, what's going on, where are you, what's the patient condition, what's happening?
What is the metric?
The threshold.
The threshold?
What's that?
The threshold for saying that you had a long wait time?
Sure.
That's probably gonna be a little bit up to you. I wouldn't, it's gonna be up to you.
I'll be honest with you,
Yeah.
Peter, and I'll just interject for a half a second. I think that, you know, as a provider, at certain times, 1 minute seems like 1 hour, especially when, you know, it's nearing the end of your tour, or it's the middle of the night, or whatever the situation may be. But what I think that we have to do is recognize, to David's point, that the hospitals here in the Hudson Valley are doing a phenomenal job of addressing wall times. I mean, I can rattle off several of the hospitals, you know, that are here in the Hudson Valley, that their EMS liaisons, and not to throw anything out of Greg because he's sitting here, you know, the second that they start seeing that, are addressing it. They're having conversations with agencies of, hey, things are getting busy here. You know, we've just seen an influx of 17 ambulances in, 2.5 hours. If you've got a stable patient and they're willing to go to an alternative destination, think about it. So I would encourage that as we talk to our agencies and our members, that they should also understand that it's not like the hospital sitting around with their feet up just making you wait, right? They're under the same duress and pressure that we are. So I think good cooperation, good communication is going to be paramount to a phenomenal working relationship. And to give those hospitals credits, I mean, when you sit at the state, and anybody that has the privilege of going up there and then talking to some of these agencies, I can't imagine what a 4.5 hour wall time sounds like. 4.5 hours, that's could be half of a tour. So again, kudos to the hospitals. I think they do a phenomenal job here, because if you wait 45 minutes, that seems like forever, but it's nothing compared to what could be. So
No, I certainly get it. Just sometimes that you approach them and say, I'm gonna go someplace else. And you get resistance from that, saying, no, we're the closest hospital, the most appropriate place to come, you need to come here, and you're gonna sit there and wait. That's where I start to have some issues, saying, go someplace else. That's a little further travel time, but I can get them in, get them out.
sure. Well, I think that, having these conversations before the incident happened is probably going to be the best result. So your administrative team reaching out to the hospital's EMS liaison, and I don't know of a single facility that doesn't have an EMS liaison, and, setting up a plan and what ifs, what happened, and then communicating and working together on the disposition of that is always going to be the best way. It will minimize the animosity that's felt on both sides, right? We would be kind of upset if, all of a sudden your agency took 15 calls and you have 3 available ambulances, and you're trying to explain to people, well, somebody has to wait a couple of minutes, mutual aid's coming, right? It's all cyclic, and I think that good open communications before it happens is always the best, so that's my encouragement. Anybody else want to add to that?
No, it's also a little bit harder. It's kind of fluid, right? Because it depends on the patient acuity, the conditions of the ER at the time which change. You know, if the patient wants to go someplace or not go someplace and all those things, so,
Yeah.
yeah. But just keep that in mind, that's an option.
No,
If you-
absolutely.
I certainly get it, you know, and I'm never one to, you know, I understand everybody's under the same pressure, you know,
Yep.
and that's the problem. I'm just kind of wondering what the metric is, that before you go to the state, you say, look, you know,
Yeah.
I was here for X amount of time.
It's different probably around the state, right? You know, those folks that are waiting 4 hours, they get in 45 minutes, they're like, woohoo, we're here, you know?
Score.
The last thing that I had was that the MTCC was brought up again to extend it, and that was denied again, and so that's continuing on its track. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
So the only thing, if you don't mind for a half a second, can you just bring everybody up to speed with where the iGel program stands?
Oh, good lord, yeah.
Please,
Yeah, I'd had it under education and
It's not a problem.
later somewhere in there, and
in 17 pages, it's easy to get lost. It's a lot of reporting.
but yeah. So as you all know, we did an iGel insertion program for BLS providers. It's a pilot program for BLS providers to insert an iGel in adult cardiac arrest. And overwhelmingly, it was a huge success. So we reported this out at the last REMAC here, brought it up to the state, talked in education and med standards. It was overwhelmingly approved. They had a couple of great questions about it and some of the relevance of some of the points of, well, if you're close to the hospital, you need to put it in. We tell paramedics don't put a tube in if you're that close. You could BVM the guy, whatever. And, you know, we're like, well, how many people here are really good at bag mask seal? And everyone, no. All right, so put this thing in. It's really helpful. It gets good airway movement, and it was overwhelmingly approved. It will be put into protocol for the next rollout of the protocol. The discussion point they have that's sort of ongoing at the moment is whether it will be completely and only the iGel or an SGA of whatever kind. That will be up to the regions. It will still be a regionally approved process. It'll be a BLS adjunct. And you will have to do capnography. It'll be continuous waveform capnography. We will continue to do the pilot until the state comes out with a policy so that it can keep going on for those using it. And you know, we'll get new people in. They're still able to apply for it and do it so that no one's kind of left behind with the program.
So are we maintaining that still?
Yes.
And I say we like I have a frog in my pocket. Are you and your team still maintaining that,
Yeah.
French mouse.
that database? So you're
Yes.
still going to continue to
correct.
do that
Yep.
until they adopt it?
That's right. But again, there was a lot of kudos to the Hudson Valley from docs all around the state that just couldn't believe how well the thing went. A lot of good spin-offs that came from it were looking at data and data management and improving data flow from agencies, PCR vendors, regions, and the state. And so it was an overwhelming success. And the
So
region
that
looks
initial
really good.
hiccup that you had with, you know, the data not passing, you've kind of resolved that with the SNOMED codes and all that?
Oh, yeah, yep. And there was a lot of reaching out to agencies, vendors, ensuring things were complete in PCRs and getting them locked and sent, and a lot of that stuff's improved tremendously. And so it was an eye-opening experience that improved not only data flow for the iGel program, but for a lot of other things as well. So it was very, very beneficial, yeah.
Yeah, that iGel study and the difficulties that David and his team were having of gathering the data opened up a Pandora's box because they had to admit that the data they were collecting at the state could not be assured to be accurate. Because if the iGel data wasn't accurate, what else is not accurate? So it opened a Pandora's box, and everybody got real nervous. The good part about it is the data and informatics team jumped all over it and really, through the iGel program, not only proving that BLS providers can, perform the skill successfully, it also improved the state's data management system. So whether we wanted to be that one that opened the question and got it answered, it has ripple effects. It really does.
We poked the dog.
So, what's that?
It's catalyst.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's good.
Poke the bear.
Is it gonna be a if available in the protocol, or is it gonna be a mandatory?
No, so this will be a, if trained and equipped and regionally approved, is the way that it'll be. Yep.
To the best that I understand, it'll be no different than whether your agency wants to provide glucometry or 12 lead EKGs or any of those
CPAPs
other
or
adjuncts that are available to you, but it's not gonna be a requirement.
Right.
The only thing that, with the pilot, all the BLS adjuncts had to be in use. So we're not sure if they're gonna stay with that as they come out with the policy. So if they have that in, then we would need 12 leads and CPAP for all agencies that's using the iGel. If they don't include that in the policy, then we can do it with less adjuncts.
There's another question. I think Alex, you wrote.
Yeah, so that was my question. Is it gonna look the same? I mean, do you really need 12? I mean, capnography is a slam dunk, I need that, but do you really need 12 leads for an iGel? So I was just wondering if those criteria were gonna be the same or not, but I guess we gotta see.
Well, we won't know, right? We won't know until CMAC takes it and makes their opinion on it and then pushes it to HVREMSCO and then HVREMSCO votes on it and moves it out. Putting undue burdens on organizations is always at their forefront of decision-making. But I will say that based on my experience of being there and listening and participating in some of the conversations, improving the quality of the care that we provide to our agencies shouldn't always be bound by financials, right? There's grants that are out there, there's all kinds of avenues to secure it. So if your agency wants to participate at that level, the question always becomes, should you be providing all of those things at that level? And it's great discussion, and it will probably not get resolved anytime soon, but we always go back and say, well, we can't afford to do it. Okay, how can we fix that? What's the avenue to be able to fix that? And maybe that opens up new grant opportunities or funding avenues through the state to say, hey, the state's gonna apply for, and I'm dreaming now, but the state applies for a grant and says, we're going to assist agencies with acquiring these services. And I base that on the fact of there was a time, and several of you sitting around the table remember, that AEDs were a thing of unmentionable cost. And then all of a sudden we got over that hump. So maybe not today, maybe tomorrow, but we should be encouraging our agencies to look to find avenues, to find the funding, to be able to provide this service because it is good quality care to their patients.
And it's really not that expensive to do all these things.
I mean, I think the biggest nut is the 12 lead. I mean, so I think, airway is important, right? But, do you really need a 12 lead? And I think that's gonna be, CPAP is cheap, iGels are cheap, I get all that, but, anything.
So it sounds like Alex wants to chair the committee that writes the proposal for a grant for the state that Hudson Valley puts out. Is that what I'm hearing?
That is what I heard.
Is that what I heard? Is that what I heard you say, Alex?
Wait, so. No, actually, I do want to clarify. So
Sure.
are they funds available to buy monitors?
There's funds to buy pretty much anything depending on.
Where do you find them? Because I would like to apply.
Okay, well, we can sit down later and look at some of those avenues because organizations across the region and the state have tapped into those. Sometimes it's grant money through your local congressman who's looking to secure either federal or state monies.
Done, been there, done that. Next.
Okay.
I've done grants, but it takes the state.
Listen, guys, I'm just telling you, there's avenues out there. I'm not saying that's the
For
answer.
them to pay you back. It's the same thing you're talking about. You have to lay out that money
I got it.
And it took me over a year and a half to get the money back when I replaced my Lucases and upgraded my AEDs.
Depends on the grant. You can speak to your state elected representatives, and they can help guide you. They have people in their offices that can help pick a grant for you, depending on what it is that you want to do. But DASNY is 2 years before you get the money, and there's, other stuff.
And it doesn't have to be a state grant, like, you could go to other folks, other nonprofits and groups that wanna help, that, you know, they can help you
Local
out.
businesses.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I was thinking more
Home Depot.
on the training side.
I don't know if
We have a
Home
lot
Depot
of
has 12 lead.
recruitment and retention problems, and now you're expanding the amount of hours that people who are volunteering barely now you tell them that you're gonna have to go through all this additional training, we may start losing those people, because
So
we're
it's not,
barely hanging on now.
yeah, so it's not mandated, training can be done online, it's very.
But if an
easy to
agency
do.
adopts it, everybody in that agency has to use it.
Nope,
No?
nope,
You have to be trained, you personally have to be
have to
trained,
be trained.
and the agency has to have it equipped.
Well,
So if
yeah,
you elected not to take the IGL training that the state's offering online, you can't put it on your patient. If your buddy next door to you took the training and you have the IGLs, he can do it, but you can't.
That seems like a little hit and miss.
Oh, I think
when-
Bob can do it, I know.
Yeah.
So the big thing that I
An
would,
agency that has.
right, so the big thing that I would always say to, statements along those lines are, those are great conversations for your local agency to be having with their administrative team, their medical director, here are the pros and cons of going to this level. This is a really good con, but we have to seriously weigh the pro to it, but we have to weigh the cons because it might have a ripple downstream effect to it. But
We
at
had-
least
we
the
had a-
conversations are being had.
We had a great this is the exact discussion we had during RSI,
Just thinking that.
right? So if an agency does RSI, doesn't everybody have to? What happens if, I get the RSI paramedic that day and the next guy doesn't the next day, right? And so we said, well, the floor that you have to meet is intubation. If you go beyond that to RSI, okay, that's great, but the floor is intubation. So in the same way, the floor of this is bag weld, mask ventilation with an OPA, just like you would any other day. If you have someone that can do something extra, it's an extra.
But I think the counter to that conversation also, just a feedback, is, at least in my experience in the little old Sullivan County is, I think, sometimes empowering EMTs to do more, there's not a crazy amount of training in the IGL, our organization uses it. And, you're talking about 2 to 3 hours of training for that, but, empowering an EMT is like, we're not just going out and putting oxygen on everybody, at least they have another modality. And I think it kind of reinvigorated some people to like, ooh, wow, I want to be a part of that, I want to make a difference, and if I can drop an airway in someone, it kind of had I think you might see a different effect than hopefully people complaining about the training.
Excellent. Excellent. Anything else on the state report for David? Anybody going around? No? Nice job, David, thank you. Old business. Wayne, do you guys have anything on the CISN? I don't see Brenda here tonight, so.
In the southern part of the county, I give a gathering, and I've got five boys on board there. I think I'm gonna take it to the EMS council meetings of each county to get resilience officers and explain the cost. It's like a $95 cost and where they would fit in with the rest. Brenda's made some inroads with some mental health partnerships in Orange County and I think in another county, I forget which one it was. So we can get that rolling, so we can get CIS teams, but the problem is it's gonna be funding. I've been to a couple of studies to the election year, and they say, don't look for funding, but that's about as far as I've got.
Right after November?
Once they get rid of
Yeah.
it.
Right after November? All right, well, listen, we appreciate everything you're doing on it. Obviously, it, is an important subject that we should never lose sight of,
I had a follow-up question on that. So,
Go ahead.
and this is not for Wayne because I think I know Wayne's perspective on this. But if the group was to put together some sort of a scope for a proposal that potentially could be shopped around, I mean, you know, do you guys have a network that can be used? I know you had mentioned something similar to that a couple of meetings ago.
Correct. We can develop things that are done on a regional basis.
Yeah.
We find that, to Wayne's point, funding is usually a little easier when we're partnering with the county's mental health teams. And then obviously they like to keep it inside their county. Is there potential for a state to get involved with it? Yes. So I don't think that we've investigated that, but I'd have to defer back to Brenda and Wayne on that.
Somebody from New York State DOH, Jenny, that's her.
Jenny Solomon.
Her thing for the New York State DOH. We partnered with her, we've had conversations with her, and she's been very helpful.
It sounds like that's being investigated. So,
Could I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Has anyone explored the use of the Cortigo Wellness app? Is anyone familiar with that?
No.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with it.
There is a company called Cortico. They offer a wellness app. My fire district subscribed to it, and it's an app that a member downloads onto their phone. It's complete anonymous usage, and it has various aspects to it. It has self-testing that you can do to see how you score if you have sleep apnea, if you're stressed. It has recommendations. It'll play music for you to calm you down. It's partnered with Jocko Willnick, who does leadership training. It's a tremendous asset.
Okay.
And if you want, I'll.
I was gonna say, if you don't mind, after the meeting,
Yeah.
can you touch base with Wayne, get him
Sure.
that information,
Yeah.
let him and Brenda hunt that down? And that
Absolutely. We've,
may very well be something that we can
we
present
provided for
the December
all of
council meeting.
our people and our new members.
Excellent, yeah,
We forced them to download the app at their orientation.
sounds great.
So this way, you know, they can look at it, and there's only one password and one ID for the entire agency, so that nobody knows who's using the app.
Right.
And it will link you, there are buttons on there, so if you wanna talk to somebody, you have the option of setting up your own internal peer counselors. But if nobody answers the phone, it automatically goes to a national crisis line, so you always have somebody to talk to.
Sounds like a phenomenal app.
It-
Yeah, if you
it
can
is-
get that
it's-
information to
It's
Wayne.
not cheap, but it's an
Okay.
amazing thing. It costs us around $6,000 a year as
Okay.
a subscription for our department.
But again, that could very well be something that we use as a tool to solicit, you know, whether it's county funding, state funding, maybe federal funding, you know, we won't know until we go through it, so that's a great idea to hook up with Wayne. Karen, you're up.
Show it to you here.
We, in Ulster County, we have a pretty robust CISM team. And
Okay.
it's through the sheriff's office, but it works on resiliency and it's a wellness program. And we do a lot of CISM work with, fire departments, agencies, rescue.
Customers.
Excellent. If you could pass some of that contact information off to Wayne and Brenda, that would be great. The more we share information and the more we get this out, the better the chance we have to reach an individual who may need the services. So,
Cool.
absolutely. Anybody else? Anybody else have any other old business that they want to bring up? The only thing that I have, I just want to kind of remind you, because it's sitting here in front of me, Wednesday, December 18th is our next meeting. At the December meeting, we'll announce the dates for the 2025 calendar year. All right, so I just want to make sure that we got that all covered.
Dave?
Yes?
I don't know if it's all business or new business. Somebody brought up Wadsworth in discussion, and
Yes.
I'm just wondering if anybody else's agency is having a hard time dealing with Wadsworth. Lack of responses from them, certifications, things like that, emails, phone calls, and trying to get a response. So it just-
Well, I will tell you that with my former employer, I dealt with them fairly regularly because we were part of their ATS blood transfer system. And until you found an inroad with somebody that you could relate to, it was kind of difficult to get a personal communication. Everything seemed like it was by email, and it would be delayed 36 to 48 hours. Again, I don't know what their staffing is, I don't know what their workload is, so I haven't had to deal with that in probably a year and a half.
You
Don't
go
miss
along
it,
with that?
don't miss it at
I
all.
just got an email back from Wadsworth that they're still looking into it. This is from January.
I'm
So,
probably, yeah, 6 months
Again,
here, I don't know.
understand that
how far I am.
Wadsworth is, from what I
I-
understand, and somebody correct me, it's the contracted agency that does all of the blood products for the state of New York. So,
they just did a
Multiple
whole-
applications, emails, phone calls, things like that, and I don't have a certificate hanging on my wall that says that we're a remote lab. So-
got it. Wayne,
I've dealt with the state directly, they said if yours expired, they haven't sent you any correspondence, it hasn't expired.
I was gonna give them that guidance, like, you did everything you could.
in
don't
pencil,
worry
just
about
change
it.
the year.
What's that?
In pencil, change the year.
Yeah.
December 31st, next year. Wayne, go ahead, you were next, sir.
We just went through the Wadsworth
Actually, email that I
renewal,
sent them and when I got
they don't return calls, and you have to stick with the original email they send you.
Right.
They wanna keep that chain email going on, so if you go outside of that and try to send them a different one, you're confusing them and they get all screwed up. So it took us like 4 months to get our renewal.
So it sounds like you're not on an island by yourself.
Not at all. I think, I don't know, I made multiple phone calls and I was told, you're not alone, don't worry about it. If you tried, you did everything you're supposed to do,
Yeah.
you're good.
All right, very good. Any other old business? Hearing none. New business. I only had one. Ms. Pardini fixed it. Thank you. Thank you. Well, at least till the next meeting she fixed it.
Motion to adjourn.
No other new business? We have a motion?
Second.
We have a second? Have a great evening. We'll see you on the 18th of December, guys. Thank you. Thank you.